Hi guys, welcome to Dynamic Auto Repair and our video series on basic automotive knowledge. My name is Ryan, and today we're going to talk about the most important safety feature on every vehicle on the road, which is going to be tires. So we're going to go over some basic tire information today. We're not going to go over anything too in-depth. I'm not going to get into what all the numbers mean on the sidewalls and all that kind of stuff. We're going to give you some real basic tips about what you should be looking for yourself on your tires on your own vehicle. So we're going to go over some real basics, and the first one is going to be size. So one of the most important things about tires on your vehicle are going to be that they are of the appropriate size. So every vehicle has what's called a placard or a sticker inside the door sill when you open the driver's door. It's going to be yellow and white in most cases, and it's going to have the original tire size written on there. Most of the time, you're going to find that the front and the rears are the same size. Sometimes you'll see different. It kind of depends on the vehicle, but that will give you both the tire size and the pressure, which we'll talk about later. But the tire size is what's most important, and in order for modern vehicles to operate properly, you really should have the original size tires on there. If you're going with off-road vehicles or high performance, you can change those things if you do them properly, and you do that at your own risk. But generally speaking, you're going to want to keep to those numbers. So very quickly, I'm going to talk about where you can find that information on the tire and make sure that it matches the information on your vehicle. Now, generally speaking, you're going to find that they match, but if you bought a used vehicle, or you bought used tires, or you bought tires that that didn't come on the vehicle, sometimes they'll be different. So very briefly, we're going to talk about size on a tire. On the side of a tire, you're going to find a bunch of numbers, but you will find a short string that look kind of like what we've got here highlighted. So this one is a 195/65R15. And you're going to find that most tire sizes are laid out in that way. The numbers might be different, but very briefly what they mean. 195 is the width of the tire from sidewall to sidewall in millimeters. So this tire is 195 millimeters wide. The second number, 65, is actually called the aspect ratio, and what it means is the height of the sidewall, and in this case, the height of the sidewall is 65% of 195 millimeters. It's a bit of a complicated measurement system. And the last one, the R15, means it's a radial tire, and the diameter of the rim, that the wheel that this would go on, is 15 inches. It cannot go on a 16, it cannot go on a 14, it has to go on a 15-inch wheel. So basically speaking, the number on your tire should match the number on that door sticker, on that sticker inside your driver's door. Like I said, sometimes if you're switching to winters, you can change some of these numbers, but the overall dimensions of the tire, the outside dimensions, should stay the same. If you're ever unsure about that, you should discuss it with your shop, your local shop, or your tire supplier to make sure that you're getting the appropriate size tires for your vehicle. So size being incredibly important because of the electronic controls, especially modern vehicles now. Some of them use the ABS or wheel speed sensors to determine tire pressure and all that kind of stuff. It's a great way of doing it, actually. But I'm not going to get too deep into that today. So the next thing I want to talk about in terms of appropriateness for your vehicle is the type of tire that you're using. So if you're buying it new, obviously, if you still have your original tires, chances are going to have an appropriate type of tire on it. But if you have an older vehicle or something you've had to buy tires for, you're going to make sure you're matching the appropriate type of tire to the situation you're using it in. So there are some specialty options, but generally speaking, there are 5 types of tire. So the first type is going to be a sport tire or a summer-only tire. Those generally are found on more sporty vehicles and usually come in low profile, that sort of stuff. You're probably not going to have that on your car unless you have a sports car of some sort. You definitely don't want to run that tire in anything other than summer conditions. You don't want to drive it in the cold. You don't want to drive it in the snow. It will not work very well for you at all. So the second type of tire, type number 2, is the most common, I think, everywhere, which is what most people call the all-season tire. Occasionally, it'll even have symbols on the side of like summer and rain and snow and whatever on the side of all the tire. They're considered to be a very versatile tire They work very well in both dry and wet conditions, and in slightly cool conditions. They can do some work in the wintertime, but I will talk very specifically about the difference between those and a good winter tire in a moment. But generally speaking, the rubber compound is only really intended for 5 degrees Celsius and above, and once the temperature drops below that, the performance of that tire is going to drop dramatically. Even though some people choose to run those tires all year round, generally speaking, it's not a great idea. You're going to lose traction. It's not going to be fantastic, and they're really not designed for winter. So I've got a good example of a tires are rolling away. This is a tread pattern for a traditional type of all-season tire. You can see it has some chunkiness to it, but when you look at it in comparison to another one I'm going to talk about in a minute, which is a winter tire, you can see the difference between them. Now, they're different sizes, but we're not going to worry about that. You can see the tread is quite chunky in this one, and this one has some other features I'll talk about in a minute. This is the all-season, but what happens when you run this in cold temperatures and snow, it's not going to perform as well as you might think. Okay, so the next type of tire, the first two we've got summer, and then we had the all-season. And then the next one is a very new type of tire. It's called an all-weather tire. Now, it might sound like an all-season tire, but it's actually not. An all-weather tire is really designed to be what people think an all-season tire is. So even though this one is called an all-season, I would call it just a summer tire, to be honest. It's not really designed for cold, not really designed for snow. Definitely not designed for ice in any way. But these new type of tires called all-weather tires are actually a blend of these two here. They've got some capabilities of winter and some longer running capabilities of all-season or summer tires, and they're blended together in one tire, and they're called all-weather. They're relatively new to the marketplace in the last few years. You can get them in usually most popular sizes and in most popular brands. I don't have an example to show you right now, but if you just look it up, you'll find it online. And if you live in an area where you can get by without dedicated winter tires, or you have an all-wheel drive vehicle or something like that, and you want to run one set of tires all year round, these all-weather tires are really a good choice because they will perform in snow and in colder temperatures, as well as in the summertime give you reasonable distances in terms of your driving durability for the tires. Because the real advantage of the all seasons over the winters is that they tend to last quite a bit longer because the rubber compound is harder. But the cost of that harder rubber compound is that they don't perform when it gets cold. So that's sport or summer tires, all seasons like this guy. Then you've got all weather, which is a combination of these two. And then we're going to do the winter tire, which I've got right here. Now, winter tires are designed for cold temperatures, ice, and snow. And if you get this close enough, you can see this tire has a lot of these little wavy lines in the treads, and these are called sipes. These are designed to deflect, in other words, to absorb and move as this tire attempts to grip snow and ice. This happens to be a studded tire also, has winter studs in it, which are basically like steel rivets that are injected into the tire to help it grip ice. But that's a choice. Some places don't allow that kind of thing, and some do. Here in Newfoundland, it's a choice, Newfoundland and Labrador. But the important things that differentiate this tire are the fact that the treads are usually more aggressive than a summer or all season, and they have lots of these sipes which help maintain grip during very wet, slushy, snowy conditions. So if you live in an area like we do here, I strongly recommend a dedicated winter tire. I'm going to do an episode in the future about how to identify a dedicated winter, what you should be looking for in those. Sometimes it's based on personal preference, but I do highly recommend them if you live in an area where there's any significant amount of snowfall or the winter temperatures get below, certainly below zero, but really even below 5 degrees Celsius for any length of time. So that's those types. And the last one, which I don't have one to show you, well, actually, that's not true. I do have one. I'll show you in a moment. The last type of tire that you'll find very common is most likely to be found on trucks which would be like your smaller mid-sized trucks, and also occasionally on some larger SUVs, and that's an all-terrain tire. All-terrain tires are usually much more aggressive than your traditional winters. They're designed for light off-road use occasionally, but they'll also give you reasonable on-road performance as well. They can be a little noisy because of the aggressive tread, but they're also often rated for snow as well. So the tires on my Colorado here happen to be an all-terrain. They are rated for snow. Even though I don't run them in the winter, I have dedicated winter tires. But they are rated for snow, and they are slightly more aggressive. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you what that tire looks like in comparison to the tires we just looked at. So here are my, tip you sideways. Hope you can see. Yeah, so that's the tire on my truck. It happens to be a Goodyear Wrangler Duratrac, and hopefully you can see the treads on that thing are pretty aggressive. They're not certainly most aggressive. There are other specialty tires like mud tires or off-road tires that are more aggressive, but those things are really good and they do perform reasonably well off-road. So that was your 5 types of tire: sport, summer only, all season, which really I consider to be a summer only tire, all weather, which is really designed for summer and winter. Then you've got your winter dedicated, like this guy here, and then you've got your all-terrain tire, which you often find on trucks and SUVs. So that's the basics on the different types of tires and when you should use them. For example, you're not going to run a studded tire or a winter tire, generally speaking, in the summertime. The studs are a no-no and illegal in most places in the summer. And the rubber compound is very soft, so it wears very quickly. So it's not ideal to use them in the summertime because they will wear out fast. So the next thing that you want to be aware of with your tires, and this is something you can actually inspect yourself. These last 2 items are things you can check for yourself, which is why they're included in this video. The first one is the condition of the tire, meaning is it worn out? Is there any obvious damage to the tire? Or is it totally okay? So this all-season tire here, this is a great example of a tire that is in good condition. You can actually see there's very nice tread blocks. You can see, turn it this way perhaps, you can see there's a great deal of tread left on this tire. This happens to be a Firestone, but it makes no real difference. This is a sensible tire that will last somebody quite a while yet. This one is in very, very good condition, as a matter of fact. So this is a great all-season tire, and if you were to look at this on your vehicle, you say, yep, that thing is in great shape. You can get devices to measure the tread and stuff, but usually a general visual inspection will do the job. If you're not sure about this kind of stuff, then by all means go to a shop or a tire supplier and ask them to check your tires for you. We do it all the time, as a matter of fact. People stop by and ask us about their tires regularly. So what you don't want to see is this guy. If you look at your tires on your vehicle and they look anything like this, they're incredibly unsafe. This is a very unsafe tire. It has been worn far too much and should have been taken out of service before it was. So you can see on the edges here, there's pretty much no tread remaining. Like there's nothing left here, which means that in anything other than absolute dry conditions, this tire is not helping in any particular way. There are these little bars, if you can see them, that go across. They're tread wear indicators. These are all touching, which means the rubber has worn down to the point where it's telling you this tire needs to be replaced and taken out of service to be recycled. So this is not what you want. Occasionally your car will wear the tires unevenly, so you'll see this sort of edge on the in or the out, and the other edge of the tire will look pretty much new or in very good condition like we have on this one over here. That could indicate a bunch of suspension or alignment issues, but the main thing you want to look for is anytime there's this kind of smoothness on a tire, no matter where you find it on the tire, either it can be dead center, it can be on the edges like this one, or it can be just on one side. That's bad. You want to get those tires off your car because in slippery or cold conditions, this is going to cause you some significant problem, and you don't want that. Very, very dangerous to have this on a vehicle. You also want to check for bulges, cracks, anything like that. If it looks like it's out of the ordinary or potentially dangerous, take it to a shop and have someone have a look at it. Obviously, check for punctures. A lot of times people don't even know they have things sticking in their tires because they never bother to check. So if you're going on a long trip or if you're just curious to make sure you're being safe, have a look at your tires, make sure they're in decent shape. or bring it to a shop somewhere and have them have a look at it for you. So the last thing that you can check, and you should check regularly on your tires, in addition to the condition of them, is the tire pressure. So that door sticker that I spoke about earlier, that's inside your driver's door still, that's going to have two main pieces of information of importance. The first is size, which we spoke about, and the second is tire pressure, which is very, very important. You can buy any number of different types of tire pressure gauges. This is a simple one here. You just push it directly on the valve, and when you do, the pressure will push out this, and this will give you, this actually happens to have both kilopascals and, let's see if I can get it in there so you can see it. The camera doesn't want to pick it up. Kilopascals and PSI, and depending upon where you live in the world, your vehicle may have a tire pressure monitoring system that will also tell you that information, but those systems do fail. They're not foolproof. They are good, but not necessarily to be relied upon all the time. A visual inspection of your tire and a tire gauge will give you the basic information. So you want to match the tire pressure in your vehicle, in your tires, to whatever that sticker says that's on your door sill. So for my truck, it's 35 PSI, so that's what I make sure it is. The funny thing for this vehicle is that it's like a lot of things in Canada, it's a mix of imperial and metric. So the tire pressure listed on the sticker is in pounds per square inch, PSI, and my TPMS system lists the pressure in kilopascals. Really sure why, but that's it. But at any rate, you want to make sure that your tire pressures match what the vehicle recommends. If they're too low, you can actually cause damage on the edges of your tire because the tire will sort of collapse in the center and wear the edges out faster. If you run too much pressure, you can run the center of your tire out sooner. And if you run it really low, you can actually cause significant damage in the sidewall of the tire because it compresses and creates a sort of like a lip and creates a weak spot around the edge. And you really don't want that because that is very dangerous. It's how you ruin a tire. So if you do have a low tire, you want to make sure you get air in it. If it has a puncture, you want to make sure you get it repaired or replaced because if you don't repair it in time, you could actually potentially end up having to purchase a new tire because of damage to the other one. So that's pretty much it for our basics on tires. Quick recap. You want to make sure you have the right size. You want to make sure you have the right type. Don't be running all seasons in the wintertime. I would not recommend that at all. And vice versa, I generally wouldn't recommend running winter tires in the summertime. So that's size and type. You want to make sure your condition is good. You don't want this on your vehicle. You want this. You want something with lots of tread, not this junk. Condition and pressure. Make sure your pressure is appropriate. Because remember, when you're driving along the road, the only contact point you have with the road, no matter what size vehicle you have, is essentially it's going to be smaller than this square, basically, unless you have incredibly large tires. So basically a small square of, 6 or so inches on each of the tires is what's making contact with the road. And when your tires look like this, and you've got 4 patches of bald tire, you go driving around in the rain, and bad things are going to happen. And we want you to be safe out there. Remember, you're not out there by yourself. There's lots of other people on the road too. Want to make sure you're safe for them as well as safe for yourself. So that's it for our tire tips for today. Stay tuned in the future. We're going to do one pretty soon dedicated to winter tires, what you should be looking for in a good set of winters, because it is almost that time of year here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So yeah, hopefully you learned a little something here today. I rambled on a little bit more than I intended, but hopefully you got some useful information out of it. Stay tuned to our channel, and we'll be posting some new videos, hopefully one every 2 weeks or so, as long as we don't get too busy in the shop. And yeah, hopefully you're learning some basics. Thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate all the views and all the shares on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook as well, Dynamic Auto Repair. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you're learning something great, and we'll see you next time around. Bye.